welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Sunday night. Happy post-game show to you. Normally we come to you Sunday nights after regular season games, and we will do so again once the regular season gets started. But in the meantime, we got some preseason action to react to. Titans fall to the Bears last night in Chicago, or yesterday afternoon. I was up there covering it for A to Z Sports. Sam Phelan was there as well. And we've got a lot of reaction to go through, a lot of discussion to have based on what we saw from a variety of different players. So we'll do, your typical stock up, stock down, and we'll talk. You'll hear from a couple of the guys who were involved yesterday. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel as well. We'll do this as a free site because that's what we always do at the end of the Sunday night show. Before we get things started, need you to share this broadcast around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you are live streaming us this evening. We're happy to have you. If you are on Twitter, please retweet the show, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, like Karen O'Keefe or all of our other Facebook friends, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're on YouTube or on Twitch, we got TK, we got XD Gamer 22. All of our YouTube and Twitch friends, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we would be grateful for you that way. We'll go ahead and get this thing started as more of you guys continue to file in. I assume it's going to be a jam-packed and loaded show. It's a post-game reaction show, even if it's a day later, but a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff to get to out of what we saw from the Titans in a loss to the Bears last night. Let's get started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday evening. I'm your host, Buck Rising. If you're new to the show, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, wherever justice demands. That is the message that Amanda J. wants you to understand. Your constitutional rights, she is there to protect you. Go to AmandaJGentry.com to find out more about her and her team. TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. A new way to work out for the best version of you. TrueMav Fitness is where you go. So with all the different things to take away, I have a list of, 7,000 things, not quite. But I think, in total, 12 to 15 different notes on various position groups and individual players that I made coming out of yesterday's game. And I think the important thing for all of us to remember is that what they did yesterday in Chicago, what they'll do this coming Saturday at Minnesota, and what they'll end with their preseason schedule here in Nashville against the Patriots, all of these things are just extensions of training camp. What we watched yesterday was, in essence, a live tackling, live action training camp practice. That's the way that the coaching staff views the preseason games. It's the way that they coach their players for the preseason games. And so, complaints about alternating quarterbacks or Malik getting all the reps with the first team offensive line and Levis getting none. The different kinds of things that they're trying in the preseason, situational football, going forward in situations where in the regular season they probably wouldn't, or whatever the case might be. These are basically training camp practices. And so as we kind of go through the stock up, stock down portion of the program, I would say just kind of bear that in mind, because while it is, you want to, if you're a fan of the team or if you're a player or a coach, you want to go out and win the preseason, even if it's only the preseason, right? Even if it's, an exhibition game is doing that. I think a little bit too much lip service. But of all the things that we saw, let's start with the positive. Who exceeded your expectations yesterday in the Titans' loss to the Bears? We will talk about this together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. You'll hear from a couple of different parties who were involved yesterday. Who exceeded your expectations? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it is made possible by Two Rivers Ford. Go to Two Rivers Ford for quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service, and the kind of customer satisfaction that you know that they can deliver on. 40 years of doing business with honesty and integrity. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So who exceeded your expectations in the preseason? last night. So you look at the kind of players that we saw. Wasn't a ton of starters, right? But there were some. Offense, defense, special teams. You got a pretty good grasp of where some depth guys are right now and where how the coaching staff currently views some of the players on the roster. Noah Leake says, I mean, hey, we could be the Ravens and not care about player development, just get them wins. Bert, do you take offense to that? He's too busy playing video games tonight, apparently. He cannot be distracted. He cannot be undaunted from his Dungeons and Dragons missions that he's currently on as he wears his headset and fights spiders as druids who can transform into cats, all of these different things. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much. I didn't see the Ravens preseason game. I know that they won. Again, it's a streak of like 24 straight preseason games or something like that they've won. It's outrageous. And I don't know how much time that they spent playing Lamar or playing, Mark Andrews or J.K. Dobbins at that point. But I think there is player development to be found if you're the Ravens in that instance, because if the Ravens are playing a good amount of starters, well, the logic, at least from, having not seen the game itself, well, I would understand them trying to work through things like Lamar Jackson is trying to not call plays off a wristband anymore. Todd Monken, their new offensive coordinator, is asking that he not do that he actually learn the offense, that he find ways to make himself a more fluid player at the line of scrimmage and to have a better grasp of what it is that have a better command, all-around command of what it is that they're going to ask him to do this year. So if that was the logic behind the Ravens playing, and again, I'm having not seen this, I don't know how many snaps Lamar and the starters of the Ravens played this weekend, but I would say that would make a ton of sense to me. And in fact, the argument could be there for the Titans, because Jimmy McStay on Facebook Live says, do you think Tanny starts next game? Seems like a lot of starters started this weekend. I didn't think a lot of starters started this weekend. There was a handful of dudes out there, but there really wasn't many on the offense. Like Chig did not play. Starting offensive line obviously did. Starting quarterback did not. Starting running back did not. Your starting fullback, I guess. Wide receivers, Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips, not starters necessarily, but if you're three wide receiver sets, then Kyle Phillips would probably qualify. He's a starting punt returner. Defensively, there weren't a bunch of dudes that played. Maybe Jack Gibbons ends up being a starter. Maybe Monty Rice ends up being a starter, but this was mostly depth dudes at that point. I didn't think that the Titans showed much of anything with their veterans and guys who they care to keep healthy through the preseason. So do I think Tanny starts next game? I mean, Blaine Bishop and I talked about this. When was that? Saturday morning. We do the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Blaine Bishop, Mickey Ryan, and myself. And 2 hours before kickoff, and Blaine was making the case for why he would like to see Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry with the starting offensive line out there for a series or two, right? It can't hurt things. And by the same logic that I've just made for Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken, well, it would be, feasible to think that Tim Kelly might want to get the operations down with Ryan Tannehill in an exhibition game before they hard launch this thing in New Orleans for week one. My gut feeling, not knowing one way or the other, and they probably won't know until Thursday, I think, is when they've been making these determinations. I would bet against Ryan Tannehill starting, just because, since he's been a backup, that's not something they've ever done. They've had different offensive coordinators. They've had offensive coordinator changes in the past where they've not changed the quarterback, or where, it hasn't mattered that they play Ryan Tannehill, or it doesn't matter that they've changed the offensive coordinators. That hasn't influenced their decision to play Ryan Tannehill. Maybe this year is different. It's possible. But I would say, just gut feeling, probably not. If I was betting, I would bet against seeing Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill at all in the preseason. Now, I could be, entirely wrong, and they trot out there at US Bank Stadium for a drive or two, and maybe they will do those things, but that's not something to date that they have done right now under Mike Vrabel. And Mike Vrabel will, to the best of our knowledge, be the acting head coach for this upcoming preseason game. Terrell Williams, obviously the acting head coach for the Chicago game. But who exceeded your expectations? Lou Man says Kearis Jackson. Kyrus was not somebody who necessarily popped for me. It doesn't mean that he didn't, that he might have for you, Lewis. I didn't notice him in particular. I know he got a bunch of snaps. I know they were trying him as a returner, not just as a receiver, and that as much versatility as he can bring to the proceedings, obviously that would be beneficial. As a receiver, he was not, 2 receptions, 34 yards. He had a long gain of 25. He was targeted 3 times by the 2 quarterbacks who got some snaps in there. And so special teams wise, he didn't really get a ton of opportunity. I'm looking at returns right now to see if he did have, Kyrus Jackson, 1 return for 29 yards. So, okay, solid. I would have to go back and review it specifically, but he wasn't necessarily somebody who popped for me. Not Wiley, says Rishi. Well, we'll get to stock down here in just a second. Will Tennessee says Chestnut. Julius Chestnut is one of these preseason guys, right? Mason Kinsey is another one who I think consistently shows up in the preseason. And, that's what you expect from your depth guys who have been in your system for a while. And they did well to do so. Gunner on the second. Damn, we were just talking about that dude today. I'd have to go back and look at the transcript to remember the name. Spears says TK if we're talking running backs. XD Gamer says Will Levis is very lost. I don't necessarily agree with that, but we can discuss that more later in the week about Levis and Willis specifically. But I will say that Malik Willis did exceed my expectations. My expectation, the last time I saw Malik Willis play in a football game was Christmas Eve, right? It's been some time since Malik was benched, and that was something that I think that a lot of people took away. Malik Willis definitely exceeded my expectations, but I had expectations that Malik would be able to operate fairly, if not comfortably, but fairly effectively in the preseason. So I would say that he did not exceed my expectations as much as the starting offensive line did. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel on that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com and get your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found with the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. That's GaryAshton.com. So when you look at the offensive line situation, I think that a lot of people wanted to see the starting offensive line go out there and get a drive. They did get a drive. They did score on the Titans' first possession. Malik Willis with a rushing touchdown after one delay of game penalty, but for the most part, a very clean operation where you got to see at least some stuff on tape. And it felt like Mike Vrabel was in a pretty comfortable place with his starting offensive line group that we saw against the Bears yesterday.
We were able to run the football. We were able to, we had the delay, which, was on everybody, but, ultimately the quarterback and making sure that we're processing everything quickly and getting it to them. But I thought that there were some good looks there, things that we had worked on in practice that we got some pile push, we got some guys cleaning out the pocket, we got some movement. We're able to run some different plays, blocked up a gap scheme play really well where there was a lot of space in there. So just keep improving and progressing, but I thought that they did exactly what I'd hoped that they would.
So, did exactly what they hoped to see from them is what Mike Vrabel basically said there. And, one drive is not the end-all be-all. It doesn't mean the Titans have a top 10 offensive line. And it's certainly good to see, given that most of the concern has been about that group through training camp practices. So I think that if you're talking about expectations, I had pretty low expectations for the starting offensive line group. The offensive line collectively throughout the course of the 4 quarters with a variety of different players playing gave up a fair amount of sacks, right? The quarterbacks were both sacked 4 times apiece. Not what you're looking for from the depth. And we know that depth offensive linemen are difficult to come by. But I think that when you talk about the offensive line group, like I said, they have not been superior at any point through training camp. And so to see them come out and look like they've got their stuff together, look like they can operate cleanly, look like they're comfortable with one another, execute the kind of assignments in the run game, in the run scheme that they were looking for, I think, and, a couple of snaps of good pass pro. The Bears did play a fair amount of defensive starters, and I don't know that the Bears will have a good defense this year. I know that who was the one outside linebacker who was made to look like Nick Bosa yesterday for Chicago? He was all over the place. The starting offensive line group did not give up a sack, though. I think that if you're talking relative to expectation, I thought that this was a solid performance and something that you needed to see. Andy Lewis says the line does have their hands full against our defense. Gibson, yes. Thank you guys for is it Tyree Gibson or Tyrell Gibson? I can't recall off the top of my head, but yes, Gibson was made to look like Nick Bosa yesterday against the Titans' depth offensive line group. But the starters managed well, and you saw them orchestrate a touchdown drive. Malik Willis, I believe, from about 7 yards out. It was a positive development, and so from that standpoint, stock up. We are going to talk stock down now, and there's a couple of different places that you could look. There are obviously other places where you have seen improvement, guys who will see their reps increase. We talked to Mike Vrabel about that today. We'll speak more specifically on the rest of the areas throughout the course of the week. I am not going to be in Minnesota for the training camp practices, but I will be there for the preseason game. We will have, I know that Sam Phelan is going to be in Minnesota for just the practices and not the game. And so I will flip-flop with Sam throughout the course of this week. And we'll have a lot of time to talk about the various position groups, what we saw from Saturday and how they need to improve that heading into this coming Saturday. But let's talk about whose stock we felt most fell out of this preseason game. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can react. Whose stock, or rather, who fell short of your expectations? That's the place that I think we should approach this from. Who fell short of your expectations? In the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We will do that together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You heard me tell you earlier, wherever justice demands. That is a slogan that they take to heart. That is the core of their mission. They want to make sure that they are in position to protect your constitutional rights wherever you may be here in the state of Tennessee. They have practiced in Tennessee family and criminal courts in 35 counties in this state, which means they take that message to heart wherever justice demands to protect your constitutional rights. In particular, fathers' rights is something that Amanda, I know, is very, very passionate about. Protecting your fundamental constitutional right to be a father to your children. So if you are in need of her services, go to amandajgentry.com and find out about all the different ways that she can defend you. All right, so let's talk about who fell short of our expectations. Moore said, Melba Matheson, Chris Moore fell short of your expectations. I thought Chris Moore was fine. The fumble, well, he was obviously called down when we thought he might have had a fumble. There was an incompletion there. But I don't necessarily think that was on Chris Moore. I thought Chris Moore had a fine outing. NPF was bad. NPF was objectively bad. And this is the thing. So if you guys remember, I told you that George Fant didn't sign here because he didn't want to play for veteran minimum. And that George Fant's argument was basically, yeah, I think I can compete for the starting right tackle job here, not just fill in for 6 weeks. And so I would like to be compensated as such. I think that NPF is not any kind of a lock to be the future right tackle of this football team. Now, a rough go as a rookie is not unprecedented. But seeing him out there in the preseason, looking the way that he did, I believe he had a false start. He did get beat a few times noticeably. NPF's preseason snaps were not what you were looking for from what I guess is considered a starting caliber offensive lineman for this football team. He didn't play a ton, but he did underwhelm. Hassan Haskins, says Joseph Lindsay. I guess I didn't really. T. Thompson agrees. He says no burst and slow. I didn't think Hassan was anything special when I saw him against the Cowboys Right now, that offensive line that he was playing behind was also terrible in 2022. But yeah, I guess I don't necessarily have expectations for Haskins at this point. Bert thought I was going to say at this stage, but of course, Bert would know that if he was listening instead of playing his video games. Rishi says Spears' 2 runs were better than all of Haskins' runs we've seen. Honestly, I would agree that, I mean, Tajay Spears didn't play a ton, and I think that's because they know that he's a more valuable asset than Hassan Haskins is. There's no way Hassan Haskins make the final roster. I don't know that that's so. Chestnut, I think, is going to give him a run for his money, but we'll have a couple more weeks to see that competition play out. I think the player who fell most short of expectation, though, and like I said, I don't know what my expectation should have been for Josh Whyle in his first NFL action, but he had the pass bounce off his hands. That's high pass, so it's not like Malik was perfectly accurate on the throw, but had one that he should have caught. It's a play that needs to be executed. Mike Vrabel said went off his hands. Was Malik's interception, was not an interception that was on Malik outright. Like I said, Malik could have been more accurate with the pass, but that is a ball that Josh Whyle needs to come down with at 6'7". And then he had a fumble as well that he ultimately lost. Not an ideal day on the whole, something that I know he took to heart, and we talked about it with him in the locker room post-game.
Yeah, definitely a little bit. I don't think I wasn't ready for it. It's just, it's a little bit different than college. Just got to learn from it. So.
Does it make you feel good at least that those are fixable things? It's obviously not something you want to do, but it's not like you're not in the right spot or not available to make plays.
Right. I think, like I said, just can learn from it, move forward. It's better now than week 1, but I'd rather it not happen at all. So
it's a team game. The offense went down and scored the first drive, and the first group out there. Things look pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just got to keep that going. Keep that momentum going. Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed the first play, but I guess on the pick that looked like it was high. Did it get on you quicker than maybe you thought, or how'd that maybe play out in your mind?
No, I got to come down with that. It's a catchable ball. Got to have it.
Was it like first time out, speed of the game, just kind of getting in the flow?
No, I think it was fine. I knew it was going to be fast, but I felt pretty comfortable. Yeah.
That first hit, how's those first hits like in a game after you're not really getting tackled too much in the training camp and stuff?
Yeah, no, it was good to get back out there, see a different color jersey. It was good. Really excited for all that's to come. So.
You had much interaction with Coach Williams, I guess, up until this week, and what was that like, kind of having his voice be the voice today?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool of Coach Vrabel to give him that opportunity. But yeah, we just talked about having effort and speed and violence, choosing violence in everything you do. I think we saw that all around the field today, so I think that was good.
You played with both quarterbacks. What was it like having different places in the huddle, different, kind of alternating throughout the game?
Yeah, I think in practice we really try to keep it all the same, so there isn't much difference. When we go out on the field, so it was good. It was good to get balls from both of them.
So that was Josh Whyle speaking about the less than ideal outing that he had on Saturday against the Bears. Plenty of players that you could go back through and talk about teachable moments, right? There are plenty of teachable moments, offense, defense, and special teams. I think that Andy Lewis says if it wasn't picked, it would not have been made such a big deal, but he definitely should have made it. Well, yeah, of course, Andy, because it resulted in a turnover. That's like they turned the ball over 4 times. It doesn't matter what they would have done, whether how good or bad Malik or Levis looked, how hard or how poorly sharp or Spears, rather. I'm going to do that. Spears or Haskins ran, right? If you turn the ball over 4 times, you're probably going to lose that football game. So, yes, it is absolutely highlighted by the fact that it was 1 of 4 turnovers throughout the course of the afternoon. Tim Kelly, Vrabes, and Malik watch Ravens' use of Isaiah Likely or Colts. It's enough 6'7" guys to use better than that. Well, we'll see how they deploy Josh Whyle during the season, how much he plays at all, right? It took Chig some time to get on the field, and I don't necessarily think that Josh Whyle is a lock to get a bunch of play time at that point. Pro receivers should catch both the Malik pass and the Levis game winner to Holmes, right? Well, yeah, I mean, they thought that it could have been the call, right? And it did look like Levis had a shot there, but that's why Gavin Holmes is Gavin Holmes, and Josh Whyle was a 5th round pick. Like these guys are not outright professional. Yes, they're professional football players. You would expect them to make those catches, but better players than them have missed opportunities in live action reps. So I don't think it's the end of the world, but you understand that evaluating those quarterbacks' performances, you have to have the context of what's around them and how it is that they manage those things. Billy Jones says, I thought we were more spread out on offense. Don't have any grand takeaways about the offense. It was situational football. Somebody asked me earlier about the play calling. I saw, forgive me, I didn't highlight the comment, but I was only paying attention to the play calling to see what plays they were calling, like what situations they were trying to rep. Try to get some screens off the ground, right? Try to get some chunk plays off the ground. Play action is something that we know they're going to do. Try to get the run game going. Don't take anything from more passes on first down here. It's just about situational football. The play calling is not something to highlight in the preseason, but we will see. I don't necessarily dispute that you're going to be more spread out once you get to the regular season, but I would not use the preseason as the assessment for that right now. At this rate, we might have better luck recruiting linemen from WWE. Listen, offensive linemen are bad everywhere. Like everybody has bad. Like I bet there's 10 teams in the NFL out of 32 that feel like legitimately good about their offensive line group, right? It's something that happens year in and year out. So we'll have a lot more time this week. Obviously, 3 hours tomorrow. I'm pretty sure we have Peter Skoronsky on the radio show tomorrow. We'll be live at training camp again. So before they take off for Minnesota on Tuesday, and we'll practice up there Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be doing our training camp on-site broadcast. And Peter Skoronsky, the Titans' first-round pick, is expected to join us at our broadcast setup. So we'll look forward to talking a lot more in depth about the preseason tomorrow. Obviously, we're just highlighting a few players here and there, but let's get to this. Is a free site. The best thing that I saw from this weekend in preseason. Who had the best moment of the preseason? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the primetime show is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. I can't wait to go to True Math Fitness on Tuesday. It's been a couple of weeks since my schedule has allowed me to go in for personal training, but you know how much I enjoy the classes, how much I enjoy the coaching staff, and how much I love the facility. It's conveniently located in downtown Nashville, and they will go above and beyond to get the best version of you, a new way to work out for the best version of you. That's what True Math Fitness offers at TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. So with this weekend, there was a lot of different preseason games being played. I watched the Saints actually come back to beat the Chiefs in a what was a pretty entertaining preseason game. I mean, the second half of these games is mostly pretty preseason-ish, but I thought that the Titans had a pretty compelling game for the first half at the very least against the Bears, and I thought the Saints-Chiefs game was worth watching today, not just because the Chiefs, or rather the Saints, are Tennessee's week one opponent, but just kind of keeping an eye on things that are happening in the league. Who had the best moment from the preseason? Justin Tucker says Orlando Jones casually stroking a 60-yarder. He just continues to do that. TK says Buck Vrabel could work you out and do it for free. Probably no need to pay for a gym. I don't think Mike would work me out as a punching bag as anything else. Willis and Chestnut says Michael Smith had the best moments of the preseason. Well, I'm not specifically talking about the Titans, but you're welcome to nominate them. I don't know that league-wide I would put them in that conversation, but you're more than welcome to do so. Music City Malik says Nicholas Davis. Pretty boy Lipshit says Skronk was bullying their starting defensive line. Skoronski is going to be a solid player, I think. I really like the progress that he's made. And he seems to have taken very, very quickly to his new position. But, it's impossible for me to not say Damar Hamlin, right? Damar Hamlin, dead on the field, cardiac arrest situation. One of the scariest moments any of us have ever seen in professional sports or in life, because it was broadcast to millions of homes on Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin getting out there and playing football again, you can, I'm sure many of you would probably take issue with the idea that he's playing football again after a situation like that, but he seemed to really, really relish the opportunity, and there was feel good in it to see him getting back to doing what he loves.
Live life, live life, have fun. You know what I mean? My doctors told me that coming back would be a good thing for me, because it wouldn't allow me to use my situation as a crutch. You know what I mean? So, I done been across the country. I done seen a lot of doctors, a lot of doctors. I spent a few months this year spending time with a lot of doctors. You know what I mean? Top in their fields, and they all came to the same conclusions, and they all told me that, they think going back and playing would be a good spot for me personally. Not no one else's situation, me personally. Knowing me, who I am as a person, knowing my situation, and knowing that, it'll help me, And honestly, this journey that I'm on, it's like, it's a blessing. Like, you know what I'm saying? I keep talking about the challenge. But, like, how many people can say that they really get to, like, overcome something, a hurdle this big in their life, and then still be here to tell the story of it? You know what I'm saying? So, I look at it like that. So I feel chosen, as far as that aspect, and as far as also, just continuing out God's mission for me, just continuing out the mission as far as raising awareness for CPR and, raising awareness for AEDs being in places that they need to be in place, so situations like mine can happen, you know what I'm saying, instead of it going the reverse way, you know what I'm saying? So, continuing out that mission and just spreading love and just keeping a smile on my face.
So that is Damar Hamlin speaking on, his situation and his decision to go out there and play football again. Really cool moment to see. Everyone on my Instagram feed is acting like the Raiders won the Super Bowl today. I didn't see the Raiders preseason game, but maybe there was some excitement. Clowney may sign with the Jags, says Puka. Yeah, why not take the full AFC South tour, right? He's been with two of them. If he signs with Jacksonville, then he only has to check Indianapolis off of his list. I think he'd be interesting in Jacksonville. I definitely think it's worth a flyer if he's cost effective. I think Jadeveon Clowney, while, I know a lot of people question him as a player, I think that as a complimentary piece, he could make a difference there. I really do think that. And that would definitely be, worth paying attention to in the AFC South. I know you guys didn't have a pleasant experience with him, but Cleveland was fine to see him go. But I think for a year, it's definitely worth taking a flyer on. It's going to do it for us tonight. Always appreciate you guys showing up and showing out. It's always good to be back in the swing of things for another football season. Like I said, I'm in town all week. I'm not going to Minnesota for the 2 days of joint training camp practices, but I will be up there for the game. Peter Skoronski is on the radio show, or is scheduled to. Well, we're gonna find out tomorrow morning if Peter's on the radio show. We're gonna have a player on the radio show. I think it's Skoronski. We're still working through the logistics of that with Titans PR. So we'll let you know as soon as I know for sure, but that is the plan. We'll be live at training camp 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. And if I don't catch you there, we'll be back for another night here on Primetime.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.